All right.
All
Good.
right.
Good
Thank you for
morning.
joining us.
Sure. Good morning.
Good morning. We're going to ask a couple of questions to start off here, and then we'll go straight into a Q&A with our media who are on the Zoom with us. And just to kick us off, 2021 brings a very young driver lineup for Hendrick Motorsports. Can you talk to us a little bit about your expectations for this season?
Well, I'm really excited. I guess it's just that young energy and the place is really buzzing over at Motorsports. I think having Chase win the championship and all of the other three guys win the races and now the other two guys anyway, and then bringing Larson on, and we're just pumped up for the year. I see we were building last year and we were able to pull it off. Chase did an unbelievable job. So rolling that momentum into this year, pretty exciting.
All right. And then also, Hendrick Motorsports has 6 wins from breaking Petty's all time record. And what would that record mean for your organization?
I've had thought about that a lot as we kind of got closer to it. The Petty organization will always be kind of the backbone of the sport, and Richard will always be the king. And we may end up with more wins than they did, but what they have made, what they've done for the sport, Richard's been with presidents. He is kind of the person that when you mention his name, it helps our whole sport. So I'm a little humbled to think, hey, I'm gonna maybe one day pass his record of wins, but I don't think I'll ever. I would love to, but I don't know if I'll ever contribute as much to the sport as Richard Petty and the Petty organization have.
All right. We will now go to questions. Friendly reminder, if you have a question, feel free to raise your hand within the Zoom platform or send us a chat. And to kick us off this morning, we're going to go to Claire B. Lane. Go ahead, Claire.
Thank you. Hey, Rick, good to have you on the Zoom. You got it. Let me ask you about what it's like race morning being Rick Hendrick. This will be pre-race, right? So it's so different than other years. What will your attitude, thoughts be, owning this big race team and all of these cars and it being different this season?
Well, I went to I think 2 races last year, Daytona and Phoenix, and I was like every other fan. I was watching it on TV, so it was so strange. But NASCAR did such a heck of a job to get get it in. So I'm going to be in Daytona, and I'm going to be nervous as I can be. Because it's first time I've been back, and it's a Daytona 500, and you hope you can come through it okay. But I guess I've always get nervous right about the time, the 2 times in it when they crank the engines, and if we're leading when it's about to end. So those are the times I get nervous. But no, it's I just think there's so much excitement around the sport. It looks like we're getting ready to maybe get to the end of this virus, not the end, but get enough people, vaccinated so we can have fans back here, hopefully by the summer. So, in full force. But it's we've been through a tough time last year. So knowing we have a vaccine that works and going to the Daytona 500, I've loved seeing the clash on a road course. So I probably will end up with 4 cars when it's over. So it's exciting.
Will you be down with your team or will you be in a suite? And if you're in a suite, if you were down on pit road, would you be whispering a little word into the ear of each of your drivers? And will you be able to do that?
Well, I can do that, but I've learned over the years, most of the time when I make a suggestion, it's a mistake. So, it's I'm going to be in the pits. I like being in there with the guys. It'll give me a chance to be with them, and so I'm really looking forward to it.
Have fun. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
All right. Our next question will go to Bob Pockers. Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, good morning, Rick. I'm just curious if you're in the pits, have you been vaccinated?
Yes, I just got my second shot, about a week ago, and so I've got a few more days now. But very lucky. I've had a lot of health issues, and I was on that list, so I got number 2.
And I want to ask you about Chase Elliott. You've seen drivers win championships and maybe change a little bit. Have you seen any change yet in Chase? And is there anything you've told him about now that you're a champion, you either need to do this or avoid to do that?
You know, I think Chase has got such a sharp head on his shoulders, and you know, you don't have to tell him much. He celebrated, and now he's ready to go, you know, try to do it again. And he's racing other different cars just to introduce himself to the rest of the world. But man, that Bill and Cindy have done a super job with him, and he's got his head on right. So he's a competitor, but I think he takes all of it in stride. So I'm excited about this year with Chase.
Thank you.
Okay, our next question is going to come from Matt Weaver. Go ahead, Matt.
Hi there. Thanks for taking the time this morning, Rick. As we get closer to the new car, the next gen car, there's still so much we need to learn about it and the R&D process, and then you guys building it. But at this phase of the game, with all the data that you have available, what do you think about that process, how it's gone, and all the testing so far?
Well, you know, anytime you bring out a new car, you're going to have to refine it. So I don't just look at history. It's always been that way. But I think you've got all the teams working on the same piece now. And still have some work to do. But when you get a piece and all of the teams work with NASCAR, we'll refine it. So we'll be good. We'll be good when next year rolls around. I think the tough part about it is we've got to race this year. Then we've got to build the cars we're racing now. And then we've got to build those cars at the same time. So you're trying to win races in a championship, and then you're going to, you know, factor in the new car for next year. So it's a load to do, but NASCAR has done a great job. They've worked with all the teams, and different people have been in the cars, and they keep refining them. We'll be good.
And as a follow-up, from a cost standpoint, what do you think that process is going to be like from the initial overhead, but then once you have all the parts and pieces, is that where everyone expects to see the long-term saving?
Yeah, I think so. Well, I know so. Once you making the commitment up front and buying all the parts and pieces, and then you've got to get rid of what you have. As time goes on, I think we'll really see the benefits of the cost saving probably in the second to third year. The first year is going to be expensive, and but you know, in the long run, it's almost front loaded. Once you get the equipment and the cars parts, then as years go on, it should be cheaper. Won't need the labor. It won't be out trying to invent new pieces. So,
thank you.
Okay, we're going to take our next question from Kelly Crandall. Go ahead, Kelly.
Thank you. Good morning, Rick. Piggybacking a little bit off of Bob's question about Chase going into this year as the champion. You've seen drivers like Jeff and Jimmy win a championship and then begin a title defense as a first-time champion. Is there a piece of advice for Chase or something for that 9 team of just maybe what's important to do or act or a mindset to have going into their first title defense?
Well, you know, it's one of those things that you got a competitor and Chase that is calm and cool. He knows how to race. He takes care of the equipment, and he can run fast. He can lead laps, but he's more confident in himself, and he and Alan are really clicking. So I couldn't believe the confidence level they had when they went into Martinsville. Alan said, "I'm going to win that race," and then to go into Phoenix. And when he had to start in the back, I talked to Chase and I said, "Man, I'm sorry." So I get to pass more cars. So the confidence level with Chase Elliott is unbelievable, and Alan. And now they think they can win every week. So, you know, just let it come to you. And Bill's there talking to him, and he is way more mature than his age. And that's something that Dale Earnhardt Jr. told me one time, not junior, but senior. He said, you got to know when to race. You got to know how to race, but you got to know when you race. And Chase does that.
Thank you.
Okay, we will take our next question from Jenna Fryer. Go ahead, Jenna.
Morning, Mr. H. I'm wondering what, good morning, how are you doing? I'm wondering what kind of reception you think Kyle Larson's going to face this year, both in the garage and in the grandstands.
Well, I think Kyle will get a very good reception. He has had, Kyle, everybody knows, most people know how hard he's worked and what he's done to make things right, or to say he's sorry and take ownership. And the body of work he's done has been amazing. And, we announced some sponsors for him last week. And one of the sponsors said they were covered up in emails and calls about excited that they're sponsoring him. And we've got other interests. So fans love him. He drives the wheels off of cars, sprint cars, midgets. He's a racer. And from a personal, relationship with him, he's excited about what he's doing off the track, whether it's foundation, working with the Urban Racing League, which he was working with them before anything happened. I've seen a different kid, and not a kid, but his life has changed, but he's determined to win. And I think fans, if you make a mistake and you own it, and you not just own it, but you dedicate your career to, be a role model for other people that maybe have made a mistake, or even people that hadn't thought about it in the depth that he has now. So I feel like he's going to be very popular, and we're already getting calls on him. So I think the proof is in what he's done, and people can see that.
And you mentioned the sponsorship, and you're getting calls for him. Do you have to connect him with these companies at any point in the conversations and negotiations for them to hear from him?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And once they talk to him, they just feel like he has, they say these are the words: we can see his heart. They had two tell me that. And another reporter, J.B. Brown, was CBS, that did the Super Bowl. He has met Kyle, interviewed Kyle, and he said, "Boy, you can see his heart's pure now. He understands." And so when customers sit in front of him and they see the record, they see what he's done in all these other divisions of racing, and they see what he was doing before he had to get out of the car, then you see, on one hand, you've got a tremendous talent, and on the other hand, you got a guy that has owned up to it, and he's made things right, and he's not going to stop. He's going to continue to do things with his foundation and all that. So, but he definitely is a guy you can put in front of a sponsor that may be on the fence.
Do you feel as confident as you did that the sponsorship will come as the season goes on?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay, we are going to take our next question from Dustin Long. Go ahead, Dustin.
Thank you. Rick, couple questions. Look, for the last 4 years, there's been a big spike in the number of cars that have been in a crash in the Daytona 500 and Speed Weeks. I mean, I know in some sense you guys kind of almost in a way plan for that, but how costly can a week of Daytona be for a team, and how troubling is where the increase in cars being collected in crashes the recent years been for you guys?
Well, it's super expensive, because usually in a crash there's no fixing it. You just junk it. And when you go down there and maybe lose one in the clash, and then one in the 500, or two or three in the 500, I've lost 4 there before. and it's costly. You put so much work into those cars to make them as aerodynamic as they can be, and you know, they're like a fine watch. And when the race is over, they look like they raced Martinsville. And so it's just something we live with. It's a Super Bowl for us, and I'm really glad that we're running a road course in the Clash, though. And I don't think we'll have near the opportunity for wrecks as we would have on the oval. So, but it's the most expensive race we run.
I also want to ask you, this year we've got 3 new teams, some new ownership groups. What does that mean for the sport to see some new people coming in? And I'm guessing with your position, you've probably had others that reach out. What kind of interest is out there among other groups?
There's tremendous interest in it. I think the word has gotten out that it's down the road, it's going to be cheaper to do. You know, and I think the new team with Jordan and Denny, excellent for our sport. It's going to create a lot of interest from other fans, whether they're basketball fans or whatever. So all these new teams coming in and the people that are interested, that's good for us. And it keeps us healthy and brings new sponsors and new fans. So I'm excited. I think NASCAR, when you look at last year and the ratings against some of the other teams, well, it's baseball, basketball, we kind of held our own. And I think the interest is there. And again, I think NASCAR did a heck of a job. I never dreamed that we would get through the year. We'd run all the races and get to the championship. As a matter of fact, they were kind of the pioneer that showed a lot of the other sports how you could do it. And so I feel good about NASCAR. I probably feel the best I've felt in years, looking at the competition level, the rule packages, just the interest in new teams coming in, where everybody was saying who's going to replace me, Roger, Roush, and Joe. You know, now they leave us old folks alone and talk about the young folks coming in. So no, it's good for the sport.
One last thing. I know you talked earlier about the be more cost with the next gen car early on, savings later. You referenced the new ownerships groups interested because of the cost declining. Year 2, year 3 for a team, is it a 10% reduction from what it would be this year, or 20% reduction of the cost with the new car a couple of years into it? Do you have a figure on that, please?
Well, you know, we need to run the car and see how the parts, what are you going to do there? I think the transaxle is a big deal. I would think that we would be maybe 20 to 30% savings once you get into the second and third year.
Thank you.
Okay, we are going to continue with questions, and our next question will come from Alex Andrea with the Charlotte Observer. Go ahead, Alex.
Good morning, Mr. H. Thanks for your time. I'm curious kind of how you feel about Chase doing so much off-season racing, and if at the beginning of the off-season you were aware that he wanted to do so much and his schedule was going to be this full.
Well, you know, in the perfect world, I wouldn't want him to race anything, but it means so much to him. And I think anytime they can drive, whatever it is, it helps them. And, but you always worry about him getting hurt. But I think the desire is so much there for both he and Kyle. I've made it pretty plain. I don't want to see you racing in the weekends and around the events that we have. If you can pick your times, it doesn't affect the team. But when it starts affecting the team, I'm going to stop them.
And I mean, do you think if there is any, you know, transition or translation into this season, he goes on like a monster number of wins or something, wins at Bristol, something like that? I mean, is that going to be something that you continue to encourage then, this sort of off-season, you know, time out of the car and running Bristol, running dirt?
I'm not going to encourage him to do it, but no, I'm not going to do that. But I feel like the relationship with those guys, they want to run those races, and whether it's a dirt modified or, what Chili Bowl or whatever, the safety's a lot better than it used to be, but you can get hurt in anything. I just think it's that spirit. I would rather have a guy that wants to drive every day than a guy that doesn't want to do anything and show up, to run a race. But it's got to be off season. It can't conflict with the job we're doing every week, and that they're not focused on the job at hand. I think the risk is getting hurt, and because if it's just a lack of focus, we're going to handle that part. They'll have to stop. So.
Thank you.
Okay, we will take our next question from Lee Spencer. Go ahead, Lee.
Kind of following up on Alex's question, and good morning, Mr. H. Good to see you.
Morning.
To follow up on Alex's question, doesn't a rising tide lift all boats? And to see a Chase Elliott running 3 different divisions, and Kyle, going out and doing his thing, and whichever of these other drivers. I mean, Joey Logano, for God's sake, got in a modified and went from 19th to 3rd the first time he was on dirt at Volusia. I mean, to see these guys, I mean, they're kind of out there singing the gospel of NASCAR. Isn't that good for motorsports in general?
Yeah, I'm sure it is. If you look at the ratings of the 24-hour Daytona, when Chase drove a car and Jimmy got in the car, if you look at the airtime those sponsors got, and I think the viewership was up 18 or 20%. I may have those numbers wrong, but that was a draw of having Jimmy Johnson, a 7-time champion, and Chase Elliott, most popular driver and a champion, in those cars. They had a lot of great guys from Indy and all that, from all over the world. But those 2 guys were the centerpiece that got all the attention, and it helped IMSA, and it made for good TV.
Is that a good B2B for, from the General Motors standpoint in Hendrick Motorsports, or at least Hendrick Auto?
Well, yeah, it's I sell Cadillacs, and I've got 5 Cadillac stores, and they were on the car. Allies, I do a lot of business with them. They were on the car, and so there's my relationship with General Motors, and the fact that I sell those cars, not that kind of car, but a Cadillac, and we reach a lot of different people. I mean, there's another audience altogether that we can get interested in our drivers. I mean, I had so many people talk about and write about, and fans respond to Jimmy Johnson being so humble and easy to talk to and down to earth and engaged, and Chase the same way. I mean, Chase beat himself up after he got out of the car the first time. Then he goes out there and picks speed up, and they impressed a lot of people. So, I mean, it's just the more we can get those superstars out and get visibility, the better off NASCAR is going to be. But that does show you the strength of our sport and what it can do when they show up, and what the fan reaction is and the interest is.
It did seem like the 24 hours of Chase from time to time watching the Rolex. But one final question. There have been a lot of predictions going into the 2021 series, where drivers, teams, whatever, are going to end up. Do you feel like Hendrick Motorsports is all the way back to its glory days?
No, I don't. I wouldn't. I don't know what you mean with glory days. Maybe when we won 5 in a row or whatever, and have 2 or 3 cars battling for the championship. Hey, I'm just going to be satisfied to be in the mix. If we can, we want to make the playoffs, and then if we can go to the final 4, then I'm going to be happy. It's look, if you can lead laps and win races, then the rest will come. But I don't think we're not in that dominant area where you can win 17 races in a year, and I don't think anybody is anymore. So too competitive out there, too many good cars, too many good drivers. But I feel better about where we are today than I have been in probably, 3 or 4 or 5 years.
Appreciate your time. Stay well.
Sure. Thank you.
We will take our next question from Michelle Martinelli. Go ahead, Michelle.
Sorry. You said that Kyle said a few minutes ago that you've supported his on-track education and worked to help others and better himself. How specifically have you supported him and his work? And do you want to see that work and education continue throughout this season and beyond?
Sure. I mean, he's committed to that. And I think he's doing a good job of showing people what you can do. If forget about he made a mistake and said something, forget about that part. Think about the urban racing school that he's bought, simulators for. And he had one of those kids and his mother at the race that he won in Dover. And he's very tight with that family. So he's been to Missouri. He's done things with other foundations. It has changed his life. That's the thing that probably most people can't see. But he is a different person. He's looked at things he never looked at before. And it feels good to him that he's making a difference. And so I think, he's not going to stop. I can tell you that he's too involved with it now. And I think he can really make a difference in so many different areas, especially that urban racing school.
Thank you.
Okay, we will take our next question from Mark Garrow. Go ahead, Mark.
Thank you. Good morning, Rick. Thanks for joining us.
Morning, Mark.
As I was telling Kyle, what the cool thing about this country, it's a place where you can get a second opportunity. And
Right.
if you earn it, people will give you that second chance. And I'm glad he's getting a second chance. How much pride do you take in being able to give him that second chance?
I felt for him when it happened. And I never knew how things were going to turn out. I didn't know, whether my sponsors were going to have a problem. I didn't know how the fans were going to react, but I knew his heart. And I thought, this is a talented young guy. And it's a shame that he's shown his heart now. He should have a chance. And so I feel good about that. And I also feel good about his talent in the car. So, but it's been really, I'll have to say, we didn't know. I probably drove Jesse Essex crazy, but we just, in my heart, I felt like I've known him. I've worked with he and Chip, and this young man drives a motorhome with his family in it and goes racing. He didn't tuck his head. He started doing things that nobody asked him to do. He did what he had to do for NASCAR, but he went way over that. So when you look at the character of what he is, and a lot of people do things and they say, I'm sorry, but that's it, right? They just say, I'm sorry. And then they go right on running their life. And that's all they have to do. And people say, okay, we'll give you another shot. Well, this guy did 10 times that. And he's created an image and things in that community that people really respect him. So I guess the answer to the riddle is, I'm a part of it, but it was Kyle's heart and Kyle's desire that got him back.
And my last question to you, Rick, is at one point you had one of the oldest driver lineups on the racetrack.
Yeah.
It looks like obviously you made a conscious decision to, kind of revitalize, regenerate your team by going with younger drivers. When you made that decision, did you have a mindset, okay, I'm going young or younger, and there's a price to be paid for that, and I just have to be patient? And it looks like now you have a team with 4 drivers that are winners on the Cup Series. But in the beginning, did you have to make a conscious decision, okay, this might hurt a little bit, but it'll pay off in the long run?
Yeah, when you see a guy with talent, no different than Jimmy Johnson or Jeff Gordon, when I saw them, or Chase when I saw him at 14. You know, you have to say, hey, he's got the potential, and it's going to take some time. Nobody's just going to step in one of these cars. Look at Jimmy and Chase when they got in the 24-hour race down there. You know, they were lost compared to those other guys, but their learning curve came pretty quick. And if you look at Chase and William and Alex, they all have they've grown in their experience level, and their talent is showing. And I knew that it probably would be a drought for 3-4 years maybe. But I'm super excited about this year. Alex can win. He would have all those second place finishes, and William won Daytona, and they're just going to get better. I mean, they're not into their prime of their life. They're going to get better. So it's hard to believe that, you know, the average age is 26 and the oldest one's 28. But it sure makes me feel just a wee bit younger. So I mean, I love to watch them. It's like you're watching your kids play high school sport. Now they're going to college, and maybe they're going to pro. And it's fun to watch them get excited and do something for the first time. Like Chase, he grabbed me after the race, said, "Can you believe this? Can you believe this?" And, you know, it was just, it's nice to win them multiple times, but it's really nice to see the first one.
Well, thank you. Have a good morning.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good season.
All right, Mr. Hendrick, thank you so much for joining us. That is all the time we have with you this morning, but we appreciate you giving us as much time as you did in advance of the Daytona 500 this weekend. And best of luck in all the races leading up to the 500 during Speed Weeks.
Okay, thank you.